well-organized lie. Defeats a disorganized truth every time. Who we?
A pseudo gon' die, they saw a pseudo killer, I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. Pseudo gon' die, they saw a pseudo killer, I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling. Who do you believe in? People bringing misinformation when that information ain't disinformation, that's disinformation. Gotta know the difference in information, get information. With the pseudo killer army hunting pseudo, cause you gotta train your mind to fight against the pseudo judo. People with the scholarship salute, we give them kudos. But the people with that look of shit, we look and see straight through those like telescope. If you ain't speaking fast, we gotta tell them folks and let them know the truth of. You bringing malinformation to blast, then you the Ku Klux. Like say, don't talk me to death, bro, what the proof of? Good juju chillin', why you wanna go way bad juju up? Shalom boy got the tank in the cut. I'm in Sosa world plotting on the kick though with Kent. Come in Tiffany gave me the pseudo names on the list and said went and got the low. Anthony got him in the scope, Gullah and goes. He made sure DNA ain't a problem for them folks, cause a pseudo gon' die, they saw a pseudo killer, I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. Pseudo gon' die, they saw a pseudo killer, I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunsling, hey.
We're not attacking individuals, we're attacking the information and attacking the methodology. This is long time coming right here. Let them know that we right there, running neck and neck with all other communities. We will not be left behind.
Man, boy, we got a good one today, man. What's good, family? Man, y'all know what it is. Y'all know how we do it. A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth every time. Woohoo-wee, man. Y'all already know what it is, man. It's Bobby Banger. Man, look, we got a great interview today. Interview with the experts. We got Dr. Wilson. He has one of those spectacular channels, Debunk the Funk, man. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to his channel. We're going to give you his information on Twitter. It's a great channel, community work, and we appreciate him. This is pastime. This is not how he make his money. He does this for the love of the babies, man. And we appreciate people who do that. He don't have to do this, but he do it. And we really appreciate him doing that work. And man, and so, you know, I'm glad to have him on the channel. I think it's an important step to continue to bring the experts to the community. And y'all know what the topic is, man. He want to talk about the anti-vaccine movement. We got some great questions for the doctor. And man, this is how we do it. We keep it real sharp and we keep everything in order because it's just important. And, you know, like we always say, a pseudo always dies at their source, man. Misinformation and disinformation, man. Dr. Wilson, what's good? How you doing, man? How you feeling?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing real good. As a matter of fact, I got a chance to meet you at your debate. It was monumental. I appreciate that. You had a rough crowd against you, talking crazy in the audience. One of my sister Juju, big up to Sister Juju. She was in the audience fighting the misinformation in the audience. But what I would like to say is your message, you and Professor Dave, was very accurate and very clear. So how'd you feel about that debate?
I think the debate went real well. I mean, leading up to it, you know, I get nervous for that kind of thing because, like, I want to do a good job. I want to present well to my colleagues. You know, I want my colleagues to be proud of what I did. I don't want to leave a bad impression on the scientific community or anything like that. And I knew these two clowns were clowns going into it. I knew who they were. I wasn't going to be nice to them. Me and Dave knew that, but I still was nervous for it, and I think it turned out like way better than I expected. And there were some moments that I think you pointed out after when I met you, where you were like, "You got his ass, man. You got him." I'm like, yeah, we did. They did not come prepared.
No, they thought it was going to be a walk in the park, and the way you and Dave just bounced off each other with clarity, it was actually a step up from the debate I did. I talked about Del Bigtree and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his whole organization, and your debate was a step up. And I'm glad to see that, to see qualified people dive into the fray. I think that was monumental. Big up to Dr. Oyamayat, Conscious Ingenuity, and all the pseudo killers in the community of skeptics, and all the people that helped in that debate. But man, I was, I had to teach myself, right? And I talked about the textbooks that I was reading by Vincent Vaccanetta, book 1, Molecular Biology, and book 2, Principles of Virology. Man, and serious work. So I didn't have the expertise that you had. I just studied hard and was kind of ready for it. And also, I would like to big up to man Sean. This is not like a scientific treatise, like I said. It's just a book that was strictly written for the community. And basically, what SARS-CoV taught me, right? Brother Sean, big up for Sean for even writing this treatise right here. So, yeah, the debate was very clear, and it actually helped the community learn more about the vaccines. Appreciate that. So let's get right into this conversation. I would like to, first of all, you have a PhD in molecular biology. My question is, how does being a molecular biologist actually help you in this conversation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so being a molecular biologist, I went to grad school. I got my PhD. Doing your PhD, you do a lot of reading. You like the first week or two, you join a lab, all you're doing is reading papers. You're getting yourself caught up with the field. You're familiarizing yourself with what people before you found so that you can build on top of that and add to what the scientific community has knowledge of. And so that process of learning how to learn, learning how other people find answers to questions, it helps me take an approach to the anti-vaccine community where I can kind of take that base knowledge where I know how we know what we know, and I can bring that to the conversation and be like, look, how much of this do you actually understand? Because if you don't understand this, man, then what are you doing having a strong opinion in it, So I think it really helps me build that foundation of what's needed to address the misinformation at its core.
You said it right at its core. Understanding the structure of cells and how they work and stuff like that is really important when you start talking about those vaccines. You're absolutely right on that. And so as I perused through your channel, you had a video. You was dealing with the contamination of DNA and the COVID vaccines. Like, what was that all about? Why would they even try to promote that? What was the claim and what was it about?
That's one of my favorite topics. So this idea that there's DNA contaminating the COVID vaccines, it's not new to vaccines, right? One of the first videos I made on my channel was an anti-vaxxer, and this was before COVID vaccines existed, was an anti-vaxxer talking about DNA in regular childhood vaccines. It's something that RFK Jr. has brought up himself. And it's the same idea in COVID vaccines, right? The fact that during the production process of DNA, during the manufacturing, of vaccines, during the manufacturing of vaccines, there's DNA in that process, right? Because you either have cells that are needed to grow the virus, and those cells have DNA, or you have DNA, which is where the mRNA and the mRNA vaccines comes from. You need the DNA to make the mRNA. What have you. Your manufacturing process is going to have DNA, but during the manufacturing process as well, there's many steps to remove the DNA from those vaccines because it's considered an impurity, and they remove and test for those impurities throughout the process. But anti-vaxxers like to say there's DNA in the vaccines, that's scary. How? Well, they have a hard time arguing that when you really press them on it. But the basic idea is that the DNA in the vaccines are bad. Insert reason why. And so what that idea did not understand, and what the people who promote those ideas do not understand is that there are several steps in vaccine manufacturing, including COVID vaccine, mRNA vaccine manufacturing, where there's great care to remove the DNA in multiple different steps, and between each of those steps, they're testing for how much DNA is left in the product. So it's like you start at the beginning, you see there's a lot of DNA. You're halfway through, you see there's a lot less, and you're at the final drug product, and there's like hardly any, right? So that's all in the system. That's all in the process already. But these people kind of bypass that. They don't understand it, and they just want to say the DNA is scary. So my videos were looking at the claims of this guy. His name's Kevin McKernan. He started it. He's a weird dude. He doesn't really debate easily. He kind of crashes out, at least on Twitter. When I interacted with him, he'll crash out if you call him out on his stuff, and he'll just avoid an actual conversation with you. But he started this, but basically he doesn't really know what he's doing. The work he puts out, I read it and I say, what is this? Like, this is super sloppy. Someone didn't know what they were doing. He doesn't even understand like how to present the data that he's trying to present. There are things missing, and it does not really form a careful it doesn't form a careful approach to the question of, is there DNA in COVID vaccines, and is there too much? Because that's really what he's trying to prove is there too much? But his tests aren't even rigorous enough to even figure out accurately how much DNA is in those vaccines. So he's wrong from the get-go. But my videos, I go through much more detail, breaking down how his methods don't stand up to scrutiny. They aren't rigorous to the extent that actual manufacturers have to do the testing. And if you actually test the right way, which is what's been done in the scientific community, people outside of the manufacturers have tested it and published their results. They find that if you test it correctly, the amounts of DNA you find are completely way below the allowable limits in biologics. So it's just kind of a classic story of anti-vaxxers making a scary claim that is going to be easy to scare people with, but then not being able to follow through with any of the rigorous science to actually demonstrate that what they're saying is true.
Correct. They're going to always doubt their source. They never can actually do that. And as a matter of fact, you were prolific in that debate with bringing source material. And it was the most crazy. They didn't have any sources.
What was crazy is that we exchanged sources beforehand. They actually insisted. They insisted on us having at least 5 sources per topic that we had agreed to discuss beforehand. So me and Dave were like, okay, well, like we'll put together a list and we'll send it along. They put together their list, sent it along. I prepared by looking at their stuff. They didn't, I guess, look at any of what we sent. So, because there was a moment where it was crazy. I couldn't believe he was asking me this. He asked me a question that was directly answered by one of my sources that I sent him. And he was just like, what? Oh, okay. Like crazy how, it's a topic where lives are at stake, right?
Right.
It's not a joke. Like if people don't want to vaccinate, then we're going to have a lot more dead kids. Like that's the end of the story. That's ultimately what the anti-vaccine movement is moving toward, is more dead kids that are dying unnecessarily. So it's not a joke or it's not just like, asking questions in a contrarian intellectual way to do this, right? To go against the science and not even understand it. Like if you're going to do that, you better best believe your ideas have been critically thought out, well researched, and that they're airtight. But these guys didn't have it. They didn't do any of that. So it tells you what you need to know about the anti-vax movement. Yeah,
and the audience was ruckus and wild and yelling out. And Man, big up to Juju. Like I said, Juju was in that fight. I was like, come on, Juju was going hard. It was the craziest thing ever, how just the misinformation, and it's a certain, because, you know, vaccines and science in general is counterintuitive. So most people can't get past the fact that you're sticking something in their arm and they actually think you're giving them the disease. So, you know, we're up against that. But the clarity at which y'all presented the information with the source material, it was so crazy. At one point, they were saying, well, where's the data? Where's the data? And I recall we had a conversation. I say, man, the data is in the scientific article they presented. You know, and it's crazy they would say that. So I recognize that. I don't know if this is fair to say. I just don't think they understood the topic.
No, I think it shows, right? I think if you watch, it shows that they don't understand the topic. I mean, there you had one moment where Steve Kirsch brought up a paper that he had sent us. Started talking about an author who has produced a lot of misinformation about aluminum-based adjuvants in vaccines. And I clarified with him. I made sure. I'm like, okay, you're talking about this 2017 paper, right? And Steve Kirsch was like, yes. I had read the paper before the debate, so I knew that the numbers in that paper were terrible. Like the methods were just not showing what Steve said it showed, or what the author even said it showed. And so I wanted to talk to him about those numbers. And when I asked him, did you look at the table? Like literally table 1 in this paper that he sent us. He says, no. I'm like, the debate's over at that point.
Correct.
It's like, you brought this paper, you didn't read it. So what are we doing here? But I'll just explain what the claim was. The claim was that aluminum-based adjuvants in vaccines, which are there to give your immune system a boost, basically. With these adjuvants, it means you have to get less shots over time for them to be as effective as they are, right? So if we take aluminum adjuvants out of vaccines, you're just going to need to get more shots because it's less effective, right? It's not going to be able to boost your immune system into gear to actually react to the vaccine as much as you would want it to. But there's all this misinformation about aluminum in vaccines. And this paper was claiming to show high levels of aluminum in autistic brains, but the numbers were all over the place. Like if I said I took an average of 3 measurements and my average was 7, you would want those numbers to be like, 5, 9, 8, like, in that ballpark, right? But what these numbers were like, and this is amounts of aluminum in the brain, it was like 0.04. And then it was like 0.2. And then the third measurement was like 18. It's like, something's not right here. Correct. You did something wrong. These numbers don't make any sense. And I had also brought which I didn't get to bring up in the debate, but I also brought another paper which did the same experiment and found contradictory results. Found results where autistic brains had normal levels of aluminum in their brain. Not to mention the fact that even if they showed high levels of aluminum, that doesn't mean that vaccines are putting the aluminum there or that it's causing their autism.
Right.
As Dave explained it in the debate, he said it could just be a dysfunctional brain. Produce it like accumulating aluminum. Had nothing to do with vaccines. So it was, he just didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, you also brought out the fact that they was getting paid off of it.
The only reason people know who they are is because of their anti-vaccine stance. If they didn't do that for a living, for as much as they do, no one would know who they are. They wouldn't get any attention. No one would pay them to talk. No one would pay them to read their stuff. It's their whole livelihood. It's who they are.
It's no honesty in that, because when you said it, they tried to act like they wasn't. But I forget, what is the name of the organization they represent? They made thousands off of that.
It's like the VRSF or something like that. Like
doctors for something.
Vaccine research, something. It's Steve Kirsch's organization.
Correct. Yeah.
So they're both part of that. And I don't know how much money they make, but it's a lot. Like they live off of it.
It took a hit.
Oh, I hope it did. I mean, that's the point, right? Because me and Dave, some people, I got a lot of reactions to the debate afterward,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't spend too much time looking at comments, but I see some people say the same thing a lot, which is, "Oh, you're not going to convince them. You're not going to change their mind if you're being mean to them." Basically, is what some people were saying.
Right.
And that's not the point. I'm not there to be nice to them. I know who they are. I know they're not going to change their mind. That's not what they're there to do. They're not there to meet in the middle or be open to a different perspective. No, these people, their entire life, their entire identity is being anti-vaccine. Without it, they have nothing. They know that, I think they know on some level that what they're saying is wrong, but they keep doing it. So I'm not here to like be nice to them and hold their hand and walk them through the data and change their mind. No, I'm here to embarrass the hell out of them so that people watching might think, oh man, those guys really don't know what they're talking about. And those guys, they really brought a lot of data and seem to be able to explain everything those guys were saying. I think maybe I should think twice before believing this anti-vax stuff. That's the goal. That's the goal, to help the audience, not help the two guys who are profiting off of anti-vaccine ideas.
Correct. Because the listening audience, they're not actually qualified to actually break down the vaccines the way the guys that are promoting it are actually, telling the people this is what it is. And then you got people who don't even understand the field at all of immunology or virology or molecular biology, all these things. They don't have a real grasp of the subject. And so, they take advantage. So they really take advantage of people's ignorance on the subject. And so you're not being mean to them because they're actually lying and cheating to the audience that you was talking to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a nutshell. So don't pay that no mind. Okay, how about the lab leak? How much of that have you heard? I've heard a lot of that lately, trying to resurface the lab leak. And so what say you about the lab leak?
Yeah, so I made a video about that earlier this year. I think at the beginning, to me, when I first started hearing about SARS-CoV-2 emerging, what I first thought of was SARS-1, because I remember in 2002, 2003, when SARS-1 was emerging from a animal market in Guangdong, China, and people were nervous that it was going to start spreading a lot. And in those first few weeks of SARS-CoV-2, I thought, man, this is really similar, and because we know that coronaviruses come from animals, that they come from bats, they jump to another animal, and then from that other animal, they usually can jump to humans. It's usually not directly bat to human. It's usually there's a second animal in between us. But we know that this happens. And the scenarios were very, very similar. But then learning about the location of the lab, I think that really convinced or made people think a lot that maybe it could be a lab leak. Maybe it could have been researchers working with these coronaviruses and the virus got out, and that's what caused it. So I think it's not like crazy to have thought that it came from a lab, but when you really dig into it and look at the really striking similarities between the emergence of SARS-1 and SARS-2, and you break down like what would it look like if it actually came from a lab versus what would it look like if it actually came from an animal market, it keeps going in the direction of animal market until it's like that's probably what happened. And so I think all the evidence does point to that. People will really, at the end of the day, come back to the fact that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was in the same city, was in Wuhan. But that doesn't really, as a scientist, I want to say, okay, but, could it have been something else? And when we look at the situation, all of the initial cases were clustered around the animal market. That's the first indication that makes me think that probably wasn't coming from the lab. And we dig deeper into it and we see, oh, it wasn't like some kind of ascertainment bias that they were only finding people from the lab or from the market that were infected. No, it was like before the market was even declared a point of interest. The majority of the cases were being reported at hospitals were traced back to the market, right? So it's important to really establish that, because if we don't acknowledge that big pandemics like this can happen from things like our interaction with animals, from having all these different species of animals alive in a market being sold for fur, food, whatever. If we don't acknowledge that our disruption of animal habitats can contribute to this, then it's just going to happen more often, right? And if we think that it's virologists in labs, if we make them the boogeymen, then we're just going to slow down research. And that's not to say that virology should be done carefully or with ethics or with careful safeguards in place. All that should happen, and all that is discussed always among scientists. But to blame them completely and say no virology research, which is what our politicians are basically trying to do, just slow down a ton of virology research, then we're just not going to be prepared for the next pandemic.
Yeah, which is crazy. You want to be ahead of the curve, and based off of the new technology, the mRNA vaccines, we can kind of tweak the vaccine to evolve with the pathogen itself, which is incredible. So, what kind of feedback have you gotten as far as the misinformation? Let's say, what type of misinformation have you gotten with this? What is the third generation vaccines now? With the third generation?
Oh, for COVID?
Yeah.
I think we're like third or fourth generation. It's
Okay,
been changed.
So what kind of feedback? Because I think the vaccines itself go with the evolutionary process as far as being. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So I mean, right now COVID mRNA vaccines are being updated to more accurately reflect the strains that are circulating among the population. So we can sequence the genome of SARS-CoV-2 that's circulating around, look at what's most common, and then design a vaccine. Basically, just change the code in the mRNA of the mRNA vaccine, and then have that be the new product. And I think, with the misinformation, a lot of people will see that as a failure of the mRNA vaccines. They'll say, oh, the original versions weren't good enough, so now they got to update it. And this version's not going to be good enough either, so they're going to update it again. But I think what's important for people to understand is that even if you had just gotten those 2 original doses of mRNA vaccine, those are still protecting you a lot against what you don't want to happen when you get COVID. Because when you get COVID, you don't want to go to the hospital, right? You don't want to die, surely. You don't want to you don't want to have any of that happen to you. And the original vaccines are still really good at that. And it's because we got these things called T cells, which are going to recognize that spike protein that the mRNA vaccine codes for in a way that's different from antibodies, right? Because what these newly designed vaccines are going for they're trying to get your body to produce more antibodies that are going to neutralize the spike. And as the spike evolves, it's going to be able to evade those antibodies that neutralize it. But that's not your body's only defense against disease in this case. And T cells are hugely important for defense against disease. And those are a lot less affected by mutations in the spike protein than antibodies. There's work in the field. I think his name's Alessandro Setti. He does T cell work in the context of spike protein and SARS-CoV-2 a lot. He's shown multiple times that people who are vaccinated with those original doses of vaccine, their T cells still are really good at recognizing like Omicron and the other downstream variants. So I don't want people to feel like, you know, the new versions of vaccines mean the previous ones failed.
Okay. Great point.
Because it's not the case. But you know, the new versions are going to help people more in the short term, right? Because if you do have antibodies that match better to whatever is circulating, then you can be more likely to protect yourself in that season from getting infected, right? And that can be more important for older people. It can be more important for more vulnerable people. It can also, like, I got my shots a couple weeks ago. I got my flu and COVID, and it could also just help me, like, not have a few shitty days of being sick in the winter. And I'll take that if I can, you know?
Correct.
So, you know, it also helps me not get infected and spread it to my kids. They got their shots too. So there's a lot of benefit that it does bring, but it's not like if you don't get them, you're not protected. If you got those 2 original doses, you still have a lot of protection against COVID.
That's important, and of course, everybody in my household got the shot. And on the community of skeptics and the pseudo killers, we all get our shots because we understand it. And changing gears just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we also have conversations around evolutionary biology and evolution in Charles Darwin. So I would ask you, what importance does that early scientific theory that Charles Darwin actually presented? What importance does that have in your field? What do y'all? How do y'all look at that?
Well, there's something biologists say, is that nothing in biology makes sense without evolution, and it is true. It is true. I mean, when we think about what's going on, right? Even this dynamic between viruses, vaccines, and humans. Viruses, they are constant. They're subject to evolutionary pressures. They undergo mutations, and those mutations are subject to natural selection. They want, you know, viruses don't want things, but their goal is to continue replicating. Our bodies have our own defenses against that. Our bodies have antibodies, T cells, innate immune cells, all these things that work together to keep viruses that could make us sick, and bacteria and whatnot out of our bodies. And it's a back and forth. It's kind of a fight between them. My professor in undergrad used to say it's a war between microbes and people, certain microbes and people, I should say. And they've had just as much time on an evolutionary scale as we have to design their tools to do what they want to do. So people think about humans as like evolution is not a ladder. Humans are not at the top of the evolutionary ladder, and viruses are like these things that can't make us sick because we're so highly evolved. Viruses and bacteria have been around much longer than humans on an evolutionary timescale. And so they have evolved ways to evade our immune system, to suppress our immune system, to work around it, to do anything they can to still infect us and use our body to, you know, make more of themselves. So vaccines are a tool in our arsenal to help our evolutionary mechanisms get a leg up against viruses and bacteria, right? So vaccines are showing our immune system a virus or bacteria and saying, this is what it looks like. Be ready to fight it if you see it. And then when we see it, we're ready to fight it. And so, but then the virus is still going to try to evolve ways to get around whatever defenses your body mounts, even if you have immune memory, which is why sometimes vaccines aren't 100% effective, right? That's also important to acknowledge. It's something that I think anti-vax people expect out of vaccines. They expect vaccines to be 100% effective, but they're not. Correct. Because viruses and bacteria are trying just as hard as we are to do what they want to do. And so vaccines aren't going to work for everybody. So it's best if as many people as possible end up getting vaccinated. So those are some ways that I think of evolution impacting the whole vaccine perspective.
Yeah, and so big up to Charles Darwin and his work in his scientific theory. Big up
Oh
to
yeah.
him. The gift that keeps giving, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's get to the. I know you did a lot of work on this on your channel. Great work right here. So,
Mm-hmm.
the misinformation 12
Mm-hmm.
right here. So, what do you got to say? Let me start off with this. That Rizza Islam guy, he been skating.
Yeah.
What say you about Rizza Islam? And on this list, how do you pick them? I see what you're gonna do. But I want to start off with Rizza, and then we can get onto the ones that you believe to be seriously infamous. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, Rizza Islam. I mean, I haven't checked in on what he's doing in a long time, but I made a video about him. I did a series on these 12 people a few years ago, and I mean, it's just sad to see him, because he's a brother, he's part of the Black community, but
Right.
everything he's saying is ultimately going to hurt the Black community the most, because when you tell people to not believe in public health, and they do it, and they stop believing in public health. So for vaccines, if people stop vaccinating, vaccine preventable diseases are going to come back. Measles are going to come back. Polio is going to come back. And these things are going to cause a lot of death and a lot of suffering. And they're more likely to cause more death and more suffering if you don't have things like good access to healthcare, if the medical system is not built for you, if you don't have as good of a health background to start off in. All these things, poor and impoverished people, which in America, most of those communities are Black and brown people, you're going to suffer more from that, right?
Right.
Because the medical system's not built in America for Black and brown people. We don't have as good as access to healthcare, and because of things like food deserts and environmental justice, but those impoverished communities also have a disadvantage there. So these vaccine preventable diseases are going to affect Rizza Islam's own community the most. But I mean, I guess he's, like I said, I haven't checked in on him in a while. I don't know how he's doing, but I think he's got enough money to protect himself at least.
Sneaking off and getting the vaccine. That's what I like to say. The pseudos always do that.
That is always what they do. I mean, even in the debate, Steve and Pierre, they were vaccinated. Their whole families are vaccinated. So they're protected, but they're telling other people like, no, don't do it. It's poison. It's toxic. And it's sad to see. And it's sad to see someone like Rizza Islam supporting that cause and spreading all kinds of misinformation about, vitamin K shots. And he doesn't even understand what that is, I guess. I'm trying to remember the things I talked about when I made a video on him. I think he was talking about vitamin K shots and just not understanding what they were. If you don't get a vitamin K shot, you're more likely to have as an infant, have a severe brain bleed that could leave you, permanently damaged or dead. So that's what a vitamin K shot's for. And it's just vitamins. Like, it's wild that these people who are anti-vax will also say the vitamin K shot is bad, but then turn around and sell supplements that are never tested in any capacity. So, and those supplements are just vitamins, and most of the time, vitamins and whatever weird compounds they want to say came from nature.
Boy, if they only understood nature.
If only, man. If only.
They only understood. Okay, so who else you got on that list that you don't like?
I mean, the worst is RFK Jr.
We're gonna save him for last.
I know.
We're gonna say,
but the other ones, we got Sherry Tenpenny. I remember her.
Okay.
She is someone who I knew about in the anti-vaccine community before COVID. And so she's interesting because she's got this anti-vaccine boot camp, which she charged. There were some journalists who enrolled in the class to report on it. And I don't remember the numbers. I put it in my video, but she made a ridiculous amount of money off of those classes, and she basically just teaches a whole bunch of lies, classic anti-vaccine talking points in them. And I don't know, man. I don't understand how people pay for that, pay to sit through all that.
Well, ignorance. Only ignorance would have you staring at the screen like this, listening to the wild information. Ignorance.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they think they're learning something, which is why they pay it. But she's got nothing to offer.
So we have a question from the audience.
Yeah.
I call him an infinite pseudo. Now he says the problem was with that vaccine, it being rushed out. Not all vaccines. See, that's a classic pseudo statement. But go ahead. What do you think about that?
So with COVID vaccines, yeah, that's a common thing that people say. It came out too fast. So how could they have tested it? And the thing you need to understand about this is that it doesn't actually take years and years to scientifically test a vaccine or a biologic. When you hear figures like it takes 10, 15, 20 years for a vaccine to get to market, that's including not just the time that it takes from like phase 1 to phase 3 and then approval, but it's also including basic research, like stuff that people did at universities and labs that give people the understanding they need in order to actually make the thing and test the thing and see that it works. But even along the process of going from like phase 1 to phase 3 to approval, how it normally would happen is let's say I have a drug. I go to the FDA. I say, hey, we tested this drug in animals. We tested it in these mice. We tested it in these other animals. These are our results. Can we start human trials? You send those results to the FDA. They put you in a wait line. And then as you get further down the wait line, they finally look at your stuff. And then they say, hey, yeah, sure, you can do phase 1 trials. Then you have to go back to the pharmaceutical company and say, hey, we got approval from the FDA. Let's start phase 1 trials. Okay, let's make sure we have the funding. Let's talk to our executives. Let's recruit people for the clinical trial. And then let's make the drug and set it up and go. That's all going to take months or years. You got to do that again for phase 2 and again for phase 3. And then after you're done with phase 3, send it to the FDA again and wait for them to get back to you. SARS-CoV-2, we didn't have that problem. The whole world was in lockdown. The whole world was in a pandemic. We knew it was an emergency. If someone, if a company had a vaccine, then they're like, okay, let's test it in animals. Let's test it in these preliminary tests and see if it's safe. Okay, FDA, here's our stuff. FDA right away, boom. Okay, you're in the front of the line. Look at your stuff. Okay, start phase 1 trials. And then they start the phase 1 trials, and then again, as soon as they do it, as soon as they get the results, FDA, boom, front of the line. None of this, like, let's wait around, look for funding, because the funding was already taken care of. The governments were like, no risk. Here's a bunch of money. Whoever makes a vaccine first, like, just get there. So there was no money slowing things down. There was no wait time, no bureaucracy slowing things down. It was just doing the science, which doesn't actually take that long. And that should tell you something about our priorities in science, right? It doesn't actually take that long to do the science, but we have limited funding, limited time, limited manpower to actually do the work. And so it ends up taking a long time. But when we actually care about something, it happens fast. So all the testing was done for COVID vaccines. There wasn't a single step that was skipped. Correct. In the safety process, in the manufacturing process, in the quality process. Nothing was skipped. It was just expedited because we didn't have any of these other things slowing us down, and because we knew it was an emergency. So yeah, I would ask that person, or I would ask that person to think about, if they think something was skipped, or if something, if there was something that they think made it less safe about how fast it took to get the vaccines out. What would they want to see? What tests should they have waited to do in order to let the vaccine go out? I can imagine some answers you might think, but we could talk about that if if they bring that up. But just think about like what tests would you want to see, and look for those tests, because I guarantee you they're there.
Correct. And then they forget we was in the middle of a breeding ground. We was in the middle of a pandemic. We talking about no shortage of test subjects, no shortage of people volunteering. No, because people can see this in real time, and they get patriotic, and then it's fear, and they want answers, they want help. And so you got plenty of people to pick from with clinical trials. Whereas though if it's not a pandemic, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. But when you see your grandmother die, you're watching that and you feel helpless, and then you want to do something about it. So you volunteer. And it was great to see African Americans period actually join in. And so it was important. And that's why I say it's important for the work that you do, Dr. Wilson. You deal with a lot of extremely ignorant people on a regular basis. And the fact that you can get past that hurdle with eloquence and grace, man, we're big up to you. So, okay, here we go. What's up with Joe Rogan, man? You know, I used to be tuned into his podcast, but when that pandemic came in, man, he bring on a lot of wild guests, man, a lot of misinformation. What you think about Joe?
Oh, his brain's cracked, man. I don't know what's wrong with him. I just caught up with, I went to Professor Dave's channel the other day, and I caught up with, he did this video on pseudo archaeology. And so he covered like the whole debate that Joe Rogan hosted with, it was Flint Dibble, an archaeologist, against Graham Hancock, the dude who
that was a good one.
Was all about like, it's aliens, but it's not aliens, making all this, whatever ancient alien stuff, but repackaged. And the fallout from that, I didn't know what the fallout was, because I thought, Flint Dibble embarrassed this dude. But then Joe Rogan afterwards goes on and like doesn't platform Flint Dibble again or any other professional archaeologist, just goes on to platform these grifters, these people who have no expertise in archaeology. And he's letting them say like, oh, Flint was lying, and like he was playing fast and loose with the facts, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, like he's so entrenched in wanting to believe that there's this narrative of like science is just broken right now. Like scientists are all crazy liberal and not in tune with the facts, or not willing to challenge reality. And he's just so entrenched in that. And then he's just accepting without question all these alternatives. And it's the same thing with vaccines. He's refusing to platform anybody who's pro-vaccine, or any experts at least, who can explain to him or challenge him or educate him on the topic. He's just continuing to double down into this reality where vaccines are bad. And yeah, COVID had a lot to do with that. I think it just cracked his brain in a way that is like, it should be studied. I don't know what happened to him, but you see it now. He's just totally turned off and not receptive to anything that's not this extreme narrative of alternative scientific views.
Yeah, it's great. I know he had Peter Hotez on there early on.
Long ago, yeah.
Long ago, he had him on there, and Peter did a great job. But Peter, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to smoke like that, and I understand it. That's why it's good for scientists like yourself that want that smoke.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think that's important to talk about, because like Peter Hotez, great, amazing scientist, physician scientist. He's looking at the neglected tropical diseases that affect poor people the most, that pharmaceutical companies see no profit in, or not enough profit in, and they're like, no thanks, not for us. We'd rather make drugs that people have to take every day. But he's focusing on that, and he's doing good work, and he's doing good science communication work with his media appearances and his books and going on Joe Rogan. But he's he's not the kind of person who wants that smoke, like you said.
Correct.
Like he's not the kind of person who's gonna bring what we need to an actual debate, you know. And I see this a lot with scientific communicators who just I think they approach it in a way that could be really useful. Like take the Dr. Mike episode that he did with Jubilee. I don't know if you saw that.
Okay.
I only saw clips, but it's like Dr. Mike, he's surrounded by like 20 anti-vaxxers and they take turns talking to him.
Right.
And he sits there very patient, explaining to letting them finish talking and then explaining to them his perspective. You know, I think that approach is good if you don't know who you're talking to.
Right.
Because if you don't know who you're talking to, like if I just a random person on the street, I'm not going to be an asshole to them right away.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try to do a gotcha on them right away. Because I don't know, maybe this person just heard everything and they're confused, or maybe they're on the fence, maybe they're interested, maybe they're a believer, but they're receptive. I have no idea.
Correct.
But when you do these debates with people like Joe Rogan, people who by this time should know better and have a big platform, you got to like give them tough love. You got to be kind of mean to them. You got to, I call it like, you got to go on the offensive.
Yeah.
Because, and that's what I tried to do, what Dave and I tried to do in our debate, because when you really stop them and be like, so wait, explain that. Or
Okay.
like, hold on. Like, what do you think that means? Or what experiment do you think would solve that problem? Like, you're asking this question, just stop for a minute. Think about an experiment to solve that problem. You know, let them do some thinking or some talking, because like 99% of the time it's going to show that they don't know what they're talking about. Correct. Or they're going to be like, I think they should do this experiment. Be like, bet. Okay, here's that experiment. Now what? You didn't know about this? You got this big platform, you know, spreading all this misinformation, but you're so confident that it's right, but you haven't taken the time to look for this? Come on, man. Like you gotta have, I think you have to have that approach to these people at this point, because Joe just, he needs some tough love. He needs someone to sit there across from him in his podcast and tell him, Joe, you're being stupid. You haven't thought about this.
And he took all that stuff when he got sick with the COVID. He was bananas. You know what we say around here on the pseudo killers and the community skeptics? We say that Joe Rogan and them are scamming our intellectual real estate between our ears. Right? Because he's acting like he know, but he don't know. He acting like he understands the process, but he really doesn't. But he comes off and he has a lot of viewers, and he come just like Risen. They come off like they know, right? But we really know you don't understand the subject. And all of them seem to not understand what a scientific theory is, because if they did, they wouldn't argue the things that they argue now, would they? Yeah, they scamming the intellectual real estate. All right, we closing it out. I would like to play, I call this a monumental soapbox, high-level educational rant. Let me play that for the audience. Let me get this in and we can get to your favorite person. I wouldn't even say just the number one anti-vaxxer should not be in charge of our health. Now, see, I never thought that would ever come to be. That the number one stunner, the number one anti-vaxxer, when I had that debate in 2019, I had no idea that his organization and that guy, we talking about the infamous RFK Jr., you couldn't have told me back then that man would be in charge of making decisions on vaccines. Bro, like, are we in an upside down universe or something? We're like, what is it? This is crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Hold on. Let me play this video though, because this got you going. I'm gonna start it right here for you.
In America, we're spoiled as hell when it comes to vaccine preventable diseases. We have a good enough healthcare infrastructure that almost everybody has access to vaccines and has access to them almost free, because health insurance companies don't like it when people get really sick, have to go to the hospital, and they have to pay out all their medical bills. They would much rather prefer vaccines to be in place so that people don't get sick in the first place. Parents in America don't see their kids getting paralyzed by polio until they can't breathe. People in America don't see their kids suffering from back-breaking seizures from tetanus. People in America don't see their kids choking on dead tissue in their throat. But in underdeveloped countries where child mortality... age 5. In America, we're spoiled as hell when it comes to vaccine-preventable diseases. We have a good enough healthcare infrastructure that almost everybody has access to vaccines and has access to them almost free, because health insurance companies don't like it when people get really sick, have to go to the hospital, and they have to pay out all their medical bills. They would much rather prefer vaccines to be in place so that people don't get sick in the first place. Parents in America don't see their kids getting paralyzed by polio until they can't breathe. People in America don't see their kids suffering from back-breaking seizures from tetanus. People in America don't see their kids choking on dead tissue in their throat. But in underdeveloped countries where child mortality is more the norm than it is unusual, that's not the case. About 700,000 kids die every year from vaccine-preventable diseases, and 99% of those deaths are in countries where vaccine access is limited. Groups like Gavi depend on the goodwill and basic fucking decency of other countries to donate to their cause of getting children what they need so they don't die before age 5. There is no good reason why 700,000 kids every year can't live to see their first birthday. Oh, did I mention most of those 700,000 deaths are in children before they reach age 1? Because if I didn't, then most of those 700,000 deaths in children are before age 1 because of vaccine-preventable diseases. And RFK Jr., a guy who doesn't think that HIV caused the AIDS epidemic, a guy who lies constantly, a guy who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, has the power to take away billions of dollars that go toward getting kids those vaccines because of an ideology that he has. It's not based on science. The guy cannot read a scientific paper to save his goddamn life. It's because he feels that he is right. He is making a decision that affects the lives of countless children because vibes. And it's not just the Gavi decision. Everything that RFK Jr. does follows the same pattern. From the claims he makes during his testimonies to the Senate to the most recent nonsense with Tylenol, RFK Jr. does not follow the evidence because he doesn't even understand the evidence to begin with. He brings ideology, not facts. And he is not man enough or honest enough to look at these ideas and actually challenge them. And that is what we should always be doing. We should always challenge our ideas. That's how we get better. That's how we move forward. That's how we improve and grow as a society. But he is stuck in this idea that he has had for decades that DTP vaccines cause deaths in children, when the exact opposite is true. All the information is there for him. He chooses to ignore it. He chooses to go with what has made him money over these years, what has brought him fame over these years, and he refuses to acknowledge the truth. But hey, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, because at the end of the day, what I'm really asking for is for people to care and do something about kids who are simply born on the wrong side of the fence. Children who die from vaccine-preventable diseases committed no crime, did nothing wrong, and were simply born in a place where they could not be saved before they reach age 1. But looking at history and the way things are going now, this is something that people just do not care about. We go on with our daily lives, ignoring the suffering and tragedies that are happening in the world. And I know, a lot of people genuinely can't do anything about them. But those who can do something about those events, choose not to. And people like RFK Jr. actively work against the goals of improving the lives of those people who are suffering the most. It's for this and many other reasons that RFK Jr. should resign. But he won't resign, because he never admits he's wrong, and he will always continue to do this as long as he has support from his base, who are never going to stop supporting him. RFK Jr. needs to be fired, and the pressure for that to happen needs to come from the people who confirmed him as Secretary of HHS, especially Senator Bill Cassidy. This man knew what RFK Jr. was about. He knew about the HIV/AIDS denialism. He knew about the anti-vaccine track record. He knew that the guy was a liar, but he still confirmed him anyway, because hey, that's how he keeps his political position, right? So yes, I'm pissed that people who don't know anything about science and have all the privilege in the world are making decisions that are going to hurt the least privileged people in the world the most. Oh God, my legs. Okay, I'm done ranting. The balls of my feet really hurt, and I think I feel a little bit better now until I open the internet later. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video.
Epic. Yeah, that was epic. Let me get this back on the screen. That was epic right there.
I appreciate that, man, because I felt strongly about what I said there.
Clear. See, clear messaging. Are we forgetting about the kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. This country, we can talk crazy in this country because you can get medical assistance, help like you can get there. You can get to it if you need be. You can actually get to it. But what about those other countries?
Yeah.
Right? What about the other countries that can't get to it? And this message really affects them. It affects marginalized communities in America, right? When you spewing misinformation. And then what about abroad? Right? So what say you about that?
I mean, I think it's the most important thing to remember in this, because a lot of the anti-vaccine perspective is very American-centric. If you listen to RFK Jr., I have a video that I'm going to make about his recent HHS video, which is crazy that it's an official HHS video saying that vaccines didn't save lives. And it's his old, and it's old. It's an old claim that, oh, deaths from vaccine preventable diseases were already decreasing before vaccines were rolled out in America specifically. And that is true that the deaths were decreasing, but then they kind of plateaued until vaccines brought that number to basically zero. But then you look worldwide and you see, is that true? Oh, no. If we look worldwide at other countries, we see that vaccine preventable diseases were largely just tearing through the population, causing the same amount of death and suffering they always had until vaccines were rolled out. And now the most vaccine preventable death happens in places where vaccines aren't available in the world. And RFK Jr., that is something he just will refuse to ever look at. I would beg any reporter to ask him about that, to ask him, why is it that the most vaccine preventable deaths in the world, deaths from vaccine preventable diseases, why do they happen in places where vaccines are not available if vaccines don't save lives? I want a reporter to be informed and ready enough to ask that kind of question. It's crazy to me that he is in this position of power.
Yeah, how?
And he's just allowed to lie. He's just allowed to get away with it. And it's so frustrating to watch, because, my dad was born in Southern Africa. It's a tiny country called Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland. But it's the most AIDS afflicted country in the world. Right. And I visited there. I've met AIDS orphans. My granny, she owned a farm in that country, in a rural area. A lot of AIDS orphans on her property that she helped take care of, send them to school, get a doctor to come out and give them their checkups. These are AIDS orphans, and AIDS is not a death sentence anymore. We have medications that specifically target HIV, because thanks to molecular biology, we can design medications that specifically target it and kill it, prevent it from killing your immune cells, and make it a livable condition that you can live a full lifespan with. And yet these people are like, children are orphaned from it. Children are born with AIDS a lot of the time in this country and are dying way sooner than they should. And RFK Jr. is someone who literally believes that HIV doesn't cause AIDS. If I got to ask if I got 10 minutes with RFK Jr., that's all I would talk about. That's all I would drill him about, because it's fucking unacceptable. To have the head of the HHS believe that. And he does believe that. He wrote several chapters in his book about it. He's on camera giving a speech saying that HIV was a scam from Anthony Fauci, because AIDS was this condition that was popping up. And at first, no one knew what it was. No one knew it was causing it. And he said it was a scam for them to pin a virus on it, because it made Anthony Fauci and the NIH more relevant that way. Like, what are we doing? This guy actually said that. He actually believes that. He never went back on it. He never said, "Nah, fam, forget it. I was wrong there. You got me. I'll do better." No, he just leaves that shit out there in his books, in his speeches, on his websites. He's left that all out there. That is a real message, a real thing that he believes, and no single reporter has asked him about it. And it's crazy to me.
So, okay. Sometimes things need to occur so that you can see just how broke the system actually is. You can talk about the system being broke, or you can talk about how the system is working, because I would have lost all my money. I was like, no way. Okay, the system is made to catch stuff like this. I swear I said it right up until that day. And then I realized the system wasn't ready for social media and politics like this. Right? The system wasn't ready to stop a person. There's influences. All the stuff that we don't want to hear actually occurred when you seen what I don't want Robert F. Kennedy Jr., right, get in that position. So thank goodness for the scientists like you. Thank goodness, although he can say things and make decisions, there's going to be a lot of pushback, man. And that's why I want to shout out to you, man, tell you, keep doing what you're doing. I know it's your sidebar thing, right? I know it's a hobby for you. I'm just glad you came on the Community Skeptics, man, to actually present this information to our community, man. Big up to you. Appreciate you. Hopefully we can have you back again. We talked about some things in private, as far as maybe getting some other guests, right? Or at least meeting them. And we appreciate you for that, man. So big up to you. Big up to everybody in the chat, to all the pseudo killers, Community Skeptics, man. We got Juju, we got Miss Tiff, who else we got in here? Man, names I can't even name right now. But big up to everybody that support us in what we do. Okay? And big up to you. Make sure you get to the channel. He has a Twitter page. Tell us where they can find you at.
I'm not on Twitter anymore. I don't log on there anymore. I got my account still there. I'm leaving it up, but
okay.
I mean,
done with that.
I'm not. I can't support the guy who leads it, so I'm not going to be part of it.
Okay,
that's and, right. It's a little freeing to not have to log in every day and see the hateful stuff there every day.
Oh, I know.
But I'm on Instagram at Debunk the Funk. I'm at YouTube, Debunk the Funk with Dr. Wilson. And you can email me. My email's in all my videos descriptions. But those are the two main places where I log on regularly. So yeah, shout out to you too. Appreciate you having me. Glad to come back.
Absolutely, man. And we appreciate everything that an expert does in your regular career that helps humanity, right? But when you take that time out to come hang out with us, man, that's a big thing, man. All right, man. With that, man, I'm gonna get you out of here. Appreciate you, man. And we're getting contact with you. And with that, man, we out.
All right, man. Peace.
All right, peace. Hey, look, powerful interview. That's what we do. Man, we had a great experience in this interview. Top notch, expert. Know what he talking about? Molecular biologist. Okay. We talked about a lot of things, vaccines, managed to get that Charles Darwin question in for those pseudos. Yeah, just acting like that ain't what it is. I'll definitely be clipping that. And just appreciate for all the hard work, man. We had a great trip this weekend. Man, great trip this weekend. Got to meet all the pseudo killers in person. That was great. See, we need more things where we meet and gather around so that we can see who we're talking to on a regular basis. Social structure is important for humanity, and particularly important for humans like minds to come together. So shout out to Juju that made that possible. Shout out to Miss Tiff that brought all the pieces together, organized it. Shout out to Chilembe. Shout out to Marcus. Shout out to Joel. Shout out to who else came? Oh man, goodness gracious, Joel. Who else we had? Joel, Juju, Joel, Juju, Vance. Almost forgot. Big up to Aunt Mildred. Shout out to Aunt Mildred. Appreciate you, Miss Aunt Mildred, man. It was great meeting you. Had a great time and hope to see you again. Hey, look, man, y'all know how we do it around here, man. Pseudo Killers. Like and subscribe, man. Hit the Cash App. Show some love. Man, we got a couple great big interviews coming. Yeah, we do. They coming, and we're going to keep it coming because I think it's just important for us to continue along this trail. Arguing back and forth with ignorance ain't all we do around here. Sometimes we take time out and argue with homo ignoramus. Sometimes we'll do that. But for the most part, we want to make sure we bring you expertise and what we do. it's just important. And we're going to keep moving and keep rolling, man. Like and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe.
Bobby Banger from the block, seen it all raw, tough. Streets of Baltimore where survival's always rough. Joined the Marines fighting for a life he could save. But back in the hood, he felt like a runaway slave. Started an army, not of guns but of wisdom. I'm the rock squad, truth the anthem, we ain't just a God killer. Bobby Banger on his path for the truth. Empower the people, give them wisdom as the proof. Black power rising, knowledge shines like a light. He's fighting for the future, ready to ignite. Selling drugs on the corner just to put food on plates, but deep in his heart, he knew he had greater fates. From the traps to the lab, he fights ignorance raw, teaching evolution while shaking up the law. The real black atheist is changing the game, waking up minds, never the same. God killer Bobby Banger on his path for the truth, empower the people.
I did say Mac Rob. Man. Mac Rob, Slim Bay, Vance. Yeah, man, we had a great time, man. We sure did. We're going to do a show on that, man. Spectacular, man. We did. And, you know, I just want to say we will continue to do what we do. All right? And it's getting better. We're going to have some more events scheduled. Y'all can come out. Man, it's a movement of scientific literacy. Okay? Big up to Dr. Mayat, right? Who got a chance to go to Morgan. I'm gonna send y'all some pictures. All right, got a chance to get some feedback from the lectures I've been giving her students, and they were intelligent, man. So what we do is spreading. Okay, it's spreading. We at the colleges and universities spreading real information, not the fake information. We doing what the pseudo can't do. They can't go and talk to a college class. They might be able to do it outside the university, but they can't do it inside. You know why? Because it ain't on par. We ain't doing nothing but producing things that are on par, man. Big up to all the pseudo killers in the pseudo killer army. Big up to everybody. And with that, man, look, we out.